Update. My 41 female partner, 44 male, is adamant I am cheating on him. I am not. Help? Original post. Just a bit of context. We've been together for 2 years. He has 2 kids. I have 1 kid. Irrelevant to this story. We live apart. I bought a home a few months before we started dating and are together only when our kids are with their other parent. He's the guy who has treated me the best out of all my relationships, and I love him dearly. I'm a chronically anxious and stressed person, and he's absolutely my peace. But today he sucker punched me with this. He's absolutely convinced I'm cheating on him. The reason he suddenly started thinking this is because 2 days ago, I wanted to show him something on my phone. There was an irrelevant tab open, my Hotmail account, which is full of spam. I've had this account for the past 24 years, but mostly use my Gmail. He saw quickly in passing that there was a folder with a man's name. Let's say James. I don't remember the purpose of this folder. It's empty. I haven't touched it in 15 years, and I have no idea why it exists. It was probably useful at some point, but I don't remember. Well, now he's convinced that 1. I closed the tab too quickly. 2. I was acting weird, nervous, and suspicious. 3. This means I've cheated or I am actively cheating. That's his perspective. Now, on to the actual truth. I am absolutely not cheating on him. He's the man of my dreams, the love of my life, and I have never ever given him a reason to even suspect I'm cheating. I spend an entire week with him at his place, never hide my phone, and don't act secretive. When I'm at my house, it means I'm with my kiddo, and my time is 100% devoted to her. I also work a lot. There is not a single second in my life where I would have time to devote to any other person, even through email. I spend my downtime at home being with my kiddo and the cat, watching YouTube videos. I send him a lot of pictures of me chilling with my cat as well, and we have constant communication. I'm very chatty through text. At first, I was super mad and also confused. Why on earth would he not trust me? What is happening? No matter what I say, he insists that I don't make any sense whatsoever, and he's just adding 1 plus 1, and to him, the answer is 2. I keep telling him that he's the one not making any sense. We've been going back and forth through text. He doesn't even want to speak over the phone or come over to talk about it. I've sent him numerous screenshots of my email, showing unopened emails that go back more than a year. I've sent screenshots of me typing the keyword James in the email and nothing comes up. I've shown him the completely empty sent folder, which to me is weird. I've sent numerous emails over the years. Why is it empty? I've even given him the login and password so he can look for himself. I've accumulated a lot of junk in that email over the many years I've had it, but I rarely use it now. It's just a receptacle for all my Amazon orders, my McDonald's app receipts, and various spam emails. I'm mad that he doesn't trust me. He says he needs time to think. I'm stuck in a loop of angry, confused, and sad. What's going on? Now for the top advice before reading the updates. Is this incredibly out of character for him, or has he always been a bit jealous and suspicious? Could he be the one cheating and projecting? This is wildly out of character. I am unsure if he would be projecting his own cheating. Anything is possible. But I'd hope not. I don't believe so. He's high libido, and we have sex daily. When we're together, which is every other week, except when one of us is sick. I give him everything he needs in that department, and in all the other departments as well. We take good care of each other, typically. Usually when people get paranoid out of nowhere, it's because they are doing what they're paranoid about you doing. Or at the very least, they're being dishonest about something. I'm going by your own words here. You have an empty folder with a man's name on it in one of your email accounts, and you claim you haven't touched it in 15 years and have no idea what this folder means. Plus, you also have an empty sent folder in the same email account, and you have no idea why it's empty. Do you think someone accessed this account and put the James folder in it and emptied your sent folder? Who's not making sense? Can you blame him for being suspicious? I told him I understood where he was coming from and that I am willing to work through this with him. He has full access to everything he ever wants, whenever he wants. I have shown myself to be trustworthy to a fault. When I say haven't touched it, I'm not sure if it's a translation thing. I just mean I have not used it as my primary email in a very long time, and the email is only used as an inbox for receipts and useless crap. Now for the first update. So, it did not end well. After 48 hours of back and forth through text, because he refused to even speak to me over the phone or face-to-face, and me giving him my password so he could check for himself that nothing was suspicious, he still wouldn't back down. At this point, his behavior was concerning, and I thought he might be having a mental episode. It was getting too much. He was texting me at all hours of the night, trying to make sense of something that didn't make sense in the first place. So, I blocked him. When he realized that, he sent me emails at my work email, asking me to check my Hotmail, which had nothing different in it. When I blocked his email, he decided to message my best friend, telling her, if I can't talk to her, I'll go through you instead. My friend has literally nothing to do with this whole thing. She never replied and is sticking with me because she's also seeing how crazy he's acting. So I thought that was that. Yesterday at work, I was visibly sad and distressed, and my whole team hugged me, offered support, and I had lunch with another good friend and colleague. The day goes by and I get off work at 4. I was walking to my car in the parking lot, flanked by 2 colleagues, and I was explaining the whole story to them. They went to one of the girls' cars because they carpool. I walked toward my own car, which was parked 2 rows away. I heard a loud man's voice behind me. I turned around, and it was him. He was walking very quickly toward me and still talking nonsense about emails. I held my hand up and said, I'm not doing this with you right now, all the while calculating whether I was safe to go to my car. He started screaming at me that I was a whore, a slut. I had never seen him like this before. Some instinct pushed me to turn around and go to my colleague's car. At this point, I was shaking and scared. I got into her car and started hyperventilating. They said, we'll drive you home. He was about 6 feet from the car, hate in his eyes, motioning for me to get out of the car. We drove off. I kept apologizing to them, crying, and looking behind us the whole trip to make sure he wasn't following. When I got home, my mother was there. I broke down and called the cops. A nice officer told me over the phone, I got nothing else going on right now. You're my priority, and I'm coming to you as soon as I can. He came to my home, took my statement, was extremely patient and understanding, and explained everything he was going to do. My ex was placed under arrest for criminal harassment with certain conditions to follow. Not sure about the legal terms here, but they did not handcuff him or take him to jail. It was just a verbal warning, and he will probably be summoned to court at a later date. I have a good network of people who care, and I believe I'm safe. Thanks, everyone. The one piece of advice I will offer: people like this often ignore the police because they are no longer living in our reality. Been there. Just because they have mental health issues, which is clearly the case here, it doesn't mean you have to feel even an ounce of sympathy or guilt. Whatever is going on, it has destroyed any chance of them being allowed in your life anymore. You may get guilt or sympathy pangs, but you should grab them by the collar and throw them out on their ass the moment they enter your head. The only way to mentally deal with stalker exes is to literally stop caring about them at all. That way, the only decisions you will make will be around your own safety. Thank you. I needed to hear this. I am angry at him, but sometimes during the day, I have small bouts of thoughts like, did I overreact? Am I being too harsh for having him arrested? And I have huge regrets about it. But then I realize, hey, the actual officer of the law told me he had enough motive to arrest him, so I'm doing the right thing. Please contact your local DV center. They can help you obtain an order of protection and help you safely plan. The order of protection has been issued. Thank you so much for the link. You absolutely did not overreact, I promise you. It's hard to see from inside a relationship sometimes how messed up things are. But try to imagine your best friend is going through what you are right now. What would you tell them? What would you want for them? Use that and apply it to yourself. I would be a rabid guard dog for any of my friends going through that. You're absolutely right. I am so sorry you're experiencing this. It's genuinely terrifying when your partner pivots like this and leaves you feeling unsafe and, dare I say, worried that they will physically harm or attack you. When we go through life, we generally expect to be safe at work, commuting, and at home. So it can be jarring to have someone pop that bubble with their unhinged behavior. I'm very glad you had your coworker there to drive you home and be a witness. I am equally glad that you called the police. But in the interim, do you have anyone you can stay with for a few days? Are you able to invest in some sort of home security system? Whatever is going on with your ex, it's clear that he's not mentally stable and is not afraid to escalate his behavior, even in public and even with witnesses. Please prioritize your well-being if resources allow. Maybe you can speak to the detective who took your statement and see if they'd be willing to have someone do some timed patrols of your area, just for peace of mind. I hope you will be okay. You did a brave thing in getting help and reporting him. I hope you will be supported and surrounded with care as you navigate the days ahead. Thank you for the kind words. They are definitely patrolling my area more. The officer told me that he was extremely calm and cooperative during his arrest. But knowing my ex, that's just a facade, and he's probably absolutely boiling with rage inside. I have some peace of mind knowing he cannot contact me, directly or indirectly, and cannot be at my home or place of employment. This is a small town, so there's a chance I might bump into him at the pharmacy or grocery store. But there's nothing I can do about that, and the officer just told me to ignore him and go to a different aisle or area in the store. It will take a very long time for me to get through this. I'm a slow healer, but time heals all wounds, does it not? Second update. I just had a 2-hour conversation with his ex, let's call her Jess, not the mother of his kids, but the girl he dated between their mother and me. A very interesting conversation. She has lived through exactly the same situation as me, minus calling the cops. She told me he was ultra-controlling, physically and verbally abusive to his 2 sons, had a bad drug habit, had an unhealthy/borderline inappropriate relationship with the mother of his children, and was psychologically and sexually abusive toward Jess. She said he used to put her on a pedestal, just like he did with me. I ignored a lot of red flags because I loved him so much. I hope he gets the help he needs. Edit. He's following me. Saw him twice today where he shouldn't have been. I documented that at the police station. They're super nice and understanding, thank God. Last story. Update. Boyfriend 28 male slammed on the brakes so hard that I flew into the locked seatbelt in response to me commenting on his driving. How to address? Original post. My boyfriend of 3.5 years and I were driving down a main road toward a red light. He was accelerating into the red light, so I said, "Why are you accelerating? It's red." In response to this comment, he slammed on the brakes so hard that the car screeched, and I was thrown forward. The locked seatbelt caught me. I was not injured by this, but it did scare me. Afterward, when I spoke to him about it, he said I made him really mad with my driving comment, especially since I had told him not to comment on my own driving the day before, and that we should agree not to comment on each other's driving. I don't think that's totally unreasonable, but I also don't think that his act of slamming on the brakes was appropriate. I am concerned that he thinks it was appropriate. How do I address this with him? Now for the top advice before reading the update. Dating is an audition for the rest of your life. You're not locked in here. He proved that his immediate and thoughtless reaction when he's angry with you is to punish you. And who cares if you get hurt? Take this information and use it wisely. And if your car got rear-ended because of his actions, it's your problem, not his. His immediate response to a criticism from you was to physically punish you. He did it deliberately and would do it again. He doesn't see that there's anything wrong with his reaction. Think long and hard about if this is the sort of relationship you want to be in, because you can't change him. He would rather put your life at risk than be wrong. I dated a guy who did stuff like this. If he was angry, he would drive too fast, take curves too tight, slam on the brakes, etc. It was a manual, so it was really easy to jerk around. He did it because he wanted to hurt me and scare me. It became pretty emblematic of how he handled his anger and frustration. He was emotionally immature and never got better. I married and had a child with a guy like this. After 5 years of worsening abuse, I managed to get out, but still had to co-parent with him and watch him slowly get more abusive with our son, until X put his hands around son's neck when he was 16 and the courts finally stopped making him spend time there. OP, please find a better man. Now for the first update. Thanks to everyone for your comments. I don't think I can respond to all at this stage, but I'll try and answer some of the questions here. The car is my car. I own it, but let him drive it. I usually push back on letting him drive it at all when I am with him, because I think he doesn't treat the car as well as I would like. The comments from him on my driving are about me driving too slowly or hesitating. I was in a scary car accident a few years ago, and I've been a very nervous and careful driver since then. I had asked him to stop commenting on my driving because I felt like he was nagging me about it all day. The specific instance where I told him to stop was because I was hesitating at a traffic circle and was giving too much space for people to go through ahead of me. The comment that caused him to hit the brakes was my first comment of the car ride. We had literally just gotten in the car, and it was the first light. Still, we had had some tension and arguments that week, leading up to it about other things, and I think he was already a little annoyed with me when we got in the car. I won't pretend that I have never made him mad and could have tried harder to avoid that, but I felt that his reaction in slamming the brakes was very extreme. I hear what you all are saying. This confirms what I think I already knew about the brake slamming. It's hard to imagine a situation where that can be seen as reasonable or safe. He has never done anything else physical with me aside from this car incident, though he does have an explosive temper. I've seen him get physical with other things. He punched a hole in our wall once over a video game. And he smacks cars when we are out running, and he sees cars not stopping properly at stop signs. I would say he hasn't lost his temper with me much, but when he has, I found it a bit freaky. Because he adopts a really intense, teeth clenched, fists clenched stance. He has slammed his fist on the table a few times. Again, he has never actually done anything physical to me. Also to clarify, he was not slamming on the brakes because of the red light. We were still about 50 feet from the stop line. It was definitely in response to my comment, and he admitted as much afterward when he explained that he slammed on the brakes because he was mad. I will look into the resources everyone sent and think about this. I am feeling like I need to end it, particularly after reading what everyone has said. Thank you. I appreciate all your thoughts and advice. Second update. Thank you to everyone who commented. It was a little rough being told by literally hundreds of people how bad of a situation this was. I think it was the wake-up call I needed though. I was having a really hard time seeing the situation clearly. I knew his behavior was wrong, but I didn't have the language for what I was experiencing and didn't know what to do. Since this post, I filled in some friends and relatives on the situation. Everyone agreed that his behavior was completely unacceptable. Everyone said he either needed some serious therapy and anger management, or we needed to break up. On Friday, I tried to ask him about the anger issues to see if he might be willing to seek help for it. He was extremely dismissive of it all, told me I was blowing things out of proportion, and even laughed at me when I suggested his aggression was a little scary. That was the last straw for me. Last night I told him I thought we should break up. What followed was an agonizing and painful 2 hours of crying and holding each other. He pleaded with me to stay, promised that he would be better for me, and asked to do therapy. Basically everything I had been wanting to hear from him for months, if not years. I couldn't trust it though. I ended up taking my dog and going to a hotel, where I'll be for a few days while we figure out the logistics of breaking up. It has been so incredibly hard, but I feel like I made the right decision. Several people expressed concern for me in my original post, so I wanted to update you all and let you know that I am okay and that I left. I'm not able to completely go no contact currently because of our shared living situation and dog, but I am taking steps to break away. Thank you again to everyone for the feedback and affirmation. I hope you've got your important documents with you. Everything else may need to be written off as a loss. At the very least, see if you can get your friends to accompany you to collect the rest of your stuff, or even handle the handoff for you. Or consider calling the non-emergency police hotline to see if someone can come with you. Glad you're out though. Now stay that way. Thank you. I did grab my documents. I do hope things will be okay when I go back, but better to be safe for sure. Am I the a-hole because I, 32 female, refused to put my boyfriend, 33 male, on my life insurance and left my ex, 33 male, on it? Plus update. Original post. I, 32 female, have an ex, 33 male, and we have 2 children, 10 female and 9 male. My ex and I had a difficult start in life. I felt pregnant pretty quickly after we started dating. Our daughter was born with leukemia, and we spent the first few years of our relationship in hospital. She's now in remission, thankfully. We also had another child during this time, and our son is autistic. After being together for 6 years, we split up indefinitely when our children were 6 and 5, which was very hard for me and him. After healing for about 1.5 years, I began dating my now boyfriend, who we'll call Jake. Jake was really lovely and kind, and took it slow with me. After a year, I introduced him to my kids. At first, my daughter was not very happy with the situation, but eventually she grew to tolerate him. Jake even has a civil relationship with my ex. Eventually, Jake moved in with my children and I, has been living with us for about 2 months now. When my daughter was born with leukemia, my ex and I had decided to both get separate life insurance just in case anything happened to us. When we originally got them, we decided that we would be each other's trustee. It also would receive 30% of the insurance and the rest would go on our child/children. After we had our son, we updated our life insurances with his name also on it. We have both still honored that. Our reasoning for this is that if one of us was to go while our children were still young, then the other would be left as a single parent and may need some support and stability. I still feel very strongly about this. Now on to the issue. Jake was cleaning up my files in my office when I was at work and had come across my life insurance agreement. While I was at work, he had sent me a message saying, "We need to discuss something important when you get home." Obviously, I was freaking out and tried calling him, but he would not answer me and said he was too angry to talk to me. I run my own business, so I took off early and drove home. Before I left, I messaged Jake to say I'm on my way home. When I arrived, I seen Jake on his sofa glaring at me when I arrived. He threw the life insurance papers at me and demanded to explain myself. I picked them up and asked what the problem was. He began to scream at me and said, "Why is your ex on your insurance that I'm not?" I explained to him my reasons above and he scoffed and said, "Well, you both make so much money now, you don't need to support one another." I was extremely angry at this and told him that it was not his business who I put in my life insurance. The money is mainly for my children and ex, and it will stay that way. Jake replied, "Well, I put so much work into this relationship, and I'm not going to get anything from it. No normal man would want a woman with 2 children who has issues." I saw red. I kicked him out and told him we were done. My children will always come first, and I will never let anyone get in the way of that. Jake packed his bags and left. While he was packing, he shouted at me that I never really got over my ex and we still love each other, blah blah blah. That he knew it from the start, and I'm such an a-hole for not putting him on my life insurance. So Reddit, I have to ask, am I the a-hole? Edit. I should have added that this did happen a few weeks ago. I haven't seen him since then, but constantly receiving messages from him and calls. Now for the top comments before reading the update. Gonna say not the a-hole, but also have to ask, has this situation come up before? Not the life insurance specifically, just him bringing up residual feelings for your ex, or a fear of getting uprooted and losing not just a partner, but at this point an entire family? The situation has never come up before. He does have his own children who are lovely. Him and his ex split because of insecurities on Jake's part. He constantly accused her of cheating and it tired her out. He has been cheated on before by a previous ex. I have tried telling him to get into therapy, but he refuses to go. He constantly compares himself to my ex and complaining I'm not over him. He says things like, "Oh, your ex is always around. Your ex didn't do this for you like I have. Your ex is better looking than me." My ex is around for our children and is a very active father. He was always there for me to help in the house, but since I've been with Jake, he only came around when it was about the children. I'm sorry you're in the situation you're in. Jake has to fix himself before he's ready for a relationship. And it sounds like you gave him stepping stones to do that, but he doesn't want to walk down the path. I hope everything works out for you, but you're definitely not the a-hole here. Not the a-hole. And his "I put so much into the relationship and get nothing out of it" when talking life insurance is alarming. I mean, we've seen enough forensic files to know what he meant. You dodged a heck of a bullet with that guy. The reality is, if you have primary custody after a divorce and pass away, most courts would grant a surviving parent custody. You did the right thing by ensuring your kids are still taken care of if that unfortunate event happens, especially since one child had health issues and the other has special needs. All the better that it at least sounds like you and your ex are able to co-parent. I can't possibly imagine that if something happened to you, Jake could have the kid's best interests at heart, and especially after his very telling reaction about the life insurance policy. Opie dodged a nuclear missile with the red flags Jake was waving around. I like how he was helpfully cleaning up her office and just happened upon her life insurance papers. Now for the mini update. So before I start with a little update, I want to say thank you for all the comments. I'm going to go through them all and try to reply even though it's a lot. I just want to address a few things. This did happen a few weeks ago and I did post in another group, but unfortunately got no advice on that subreddit. I'd left it for a few weeks before my ex suggested this one, because his words are, maybe these internet strangers would make you see sense and stop you thinking you're an a-hole. Also, could help you to see you shouldn't get back with Jake. Just wanted to clear that bit up. Firstly, I should have probably added this in the post. My ex and I are definitely not getting back together. We are very good friends, as I am with his husband. My ex always thought he was gay, but he is not from the UK and his parents would disapprove, which they have done so and cut ties with him. I was upset to start with, but loved them both dearly. I was even best woman at their wedding. So yes, I definitely am over my ex. My ex, his husband and I are currently having a lovely glass of wine and discussing the issues around Jake. For the people saying it's not right that I have my ex on my life insurance, let me just explain my point of view. Our son is autistic, so has a lot of issues around his autism. Our daughter, due to chemotherapy, is deaf in one ear and is currently in a wheelchair and has multiple appointments. I am very wealthy and my ex-partner is not. We opted to do private care to get the best for our children. I'm leaving him some money for our children and to help him and his husband financially if anything was to happen to me. I 10,000% trust my ex with our kids' money. My children will inherit all my properties and money. I do have a will, so everything in that sense is hoarded. They have trust funds and never need to worry about their future. My life insurance is all my ex gets money from, and a few thousand from my own personal money, as does his husband. Now on to Jake. Currently, my ex, his husband and I are packing up Jake's things and they are going to take it to his parents' house. I informed his parents that Jake and I are no longer together and that we will drop off his stuff at their house. They were sad and wished me well as I did them. Jake continually called me and texted me, which I have ignored these past few weeks, and I ignored him. He has been pleading to me about taking him back and how much he loves me and my kids. However, just an hour ago, he sent the most vile messages I've ever had in my life, calling my daughter a spoiled dramatic little witch who uses her illness to get her way. He called my son some disgusting things, which I won't even repeat. At this point, I was done. I messaged him one final message, saying that if he continued to try reaching out to me, I will be filing for a protection order against him, and blocked him on all platforms. Also, I screenshotted the last message he sent and forwarded it to his ex and his family. I am very aware that it is petty, but I do not care. No one gets away with saying that about my children. I really think I will take a break from dating for a while and concentrate on me and my little family, which includes the father of my children and his husband. I'm so upset that there were red flags there that I just chose to ignore or was really oblivious to. Little edit. I know I said I wouldn't post what he said, but screw it. He's a horrible human and I've had a few glasses of wine. Lol. He called my daughter a cripple and called my son a retarded freak. So he can so screw himself. I'm probably just gonna leave this post now. Time to heal and focus on my beautiful kids. Thank you so much for all the comments and advice. I hope you are all blessed, and I appreciate everyone's opinions, advice, and support. I will definitely be taking a lot of points into my heart. Thank you. Last story. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Original post. I, 34 male, work in a physically demanding field. Myself and my coworkers are all fit people, without a lot of body type variety. My wife, 32 female, is fat. The thing is, she's always been fat. The whole time I've known her. We dated when she was fat, we got married when she was fat. She knows she's fat. She's fat and she's beautiful. I'm happy if she loses weight and I'm happy if she stays where she is. I think she's the most beautiful woman in the world as is. One of my coworkers, Julia, 28 female, started complaining that she's too fat to be loved, and fat people don't get to be loved. Julia isn't fat. She's maybe 120 pounds. She works out 5 times a week and barely ever eats. I told her that wasn't true and that my wife was fat. She got really red in the face and started telling me I wasn't allowed to call my wife fat, that I was insulting her and that my wife was beautiful and curvy. Carol doesn't like being called curvy. She thinks it's a label used to avoid calling people fat because it's a dirty word to most people. I told Julia as much, and she started threatening to tell my wife I called her fat. She pulled up her Instagram and told me she was messaging Carol that I was being mean. I beat her to the punch and called my wife, put her on speaker, and asked if she was curvy or fat. Carol laughed and said, "I hate that curvy nonsense. Fat and beautiful, baby." I thanked her, told her I loved her, and hung up. As soon as I hit end, Julia went mental. She started screaming that I was abusing my wife. When I asked how, she said I was clearly brainwashing her into accepting the term fat to try to keep her complacent and from getting away from me. That no woman in her right mind could be okay with her husband calling them fat. I showed her a picture of my wife in a shirt that had BBW on it. She bought it for herself, by the way. She stormed off and hasn't spoken to me since. Now, I just walked in today to an email from HR requesting a meeting with me. I don't think it's a big deal. I have my wife's blog for fat positivity, the shirt, and can easily call her for proof. But now, things are frigid at work. And Julia constantly gives me dirty looks when we were in the same room. She ignores me otherwise. So I'm just over here scratching my head. Am I the a-hole for calling my wife fat? Now for the top comments before reading the update. The difference between your wife and Julia is that your wife loves herself. Julia can't even pretend to. Not the a-hole. Yep, the HR thing is wild. Imagine fishing for validation from a man, your married coworker, going off on him for loving his wife, threatening to DM her, and then reporting him to HR. Not the a-hole. If anything, Julia may be upset because she can't blame her insecurities on this idea of being fat. Or she uses this idea of body positivity to push others into expressing fat phobia she internalizes. Ding ding ding. The wildest thing is, Julia was fishing for validation from a married man, and then went off the deep end quickly. Julia is controlling, emotionally labile and passive-aggressive. Avoid and ignore as much as possible, OP. For reals, Julia was definitely fishing for compliments by calling herself fat, hoping the OP will confide about how his wife is fat and how he hates it. But she wasn't expecting OP to have a healthy marriage to a confident woman. Not the a-hole and your wife sounds awesome. Julia should get a better hobby because she sucks at fishing. My wife is the light of my life. She makes me smile every day and she's the reason I wake up in the morning. Thank you. But this is exactly why people stay so guarded at work these days. I'm 40, and when I first started working, the office culture was always work hard, play hard. And many coworkers were my friends. We'd go to the bar after work and things like that. About 5 years ago, I got written up for talking about how bad my neighbor I had just moved into was, and that I didn't feel safe walking alone at night and definitely wouldn't recommend a woman walking alone. I got written up because a coworker overheard this conversation and wasn't comfortable with the implied topic of rape. That's all it takes. No further action was taken, but I still have that hanging over my head. I know it's on record. I know there is an anonymous woman that is actively avoiding me pretending to have trauma. I am polite and professional with coworkers now, and they don't even know where I live anymore and nothing about my personal life. OP here did nothing wrong, but he did make a coworker uncomfortable. That's enough these days. It doesn't matter if that person has justification to be uncomfortable. They can claim in and then make it a problem for their employer by claiming hostile work environment and so on. Even unjustified, it's time and expense and risk for a company. So that is the way it is today. And now I work fully remote, and companies no longer get my enthusiasm, and my coworkers do not get anything more than professionalism from me. I had a slightly different, yet very similar, experience. I didn't imply anything, because I didn't say anything like any of what was later related by this woman. It simply didn't occur. Lots of people were right there, thank goodness. When I was approached about it, I offered reassurance that I wasn't even talking about any such thing. I was then told that I hadn't actually done anything wrong, but it was still a problem because the other person felt upset by what they thought they overheard me say. I've been working in an office for about 3 years and never had an office job. I knew from the jump to keep my mouth closed. Be nice, but don't do a lot of talking. I'm 6'3" black man. I don't know anything I say misconstrued. I work with mainly women and they all say I am the quiet one. Nice women, but they talk about some stuff sometimes not appropriate for work. Edit/update. So I met with HR at 4 today. Apparently, multiple coworkers who had overheard the conversation stopped by HR through the day to give their side and weigh in. I wasn't in trouble, they just wanted my side of things. It checked out with what everyone else has said too. I still don't know which of my crew stopped by, but I owe them my life. I offered to show my wife's blog, and our rep, who is a really nice girl, told me that if it didn't affect my work, it was irrelevant. The story had been corroborated enough by others. HR reiterated a lot of what y'all said. Even though Julia initiated a conversation, I shouldn't have jumped in. It was less of a scolding and more of a request to keep my nose out of other people's business. I'm sad because I thought Julia and I were friends. We talked about our mental health struggles, the hardships of the field we're in, and heavy things like that. Won't be having those conversations any further. Julia and I will no longer be paired on teams for patient care. I was told my part in the investigation was done, and they thanked me for my time. So I think I'm going to be okay. Before I left, I told HR that if weight loss or body image wasn't supposed to be a topic of conversation, they should consider enforcing that on a company level. We have a weight loss challenge. I suggested making it a fitness challenge instead. She said they'd take it into consideration. So that's it. I wrapped up my treatments. Everything will hopefully shake out. Haven't spoken to Julia. Hoping to avoid her for the near future. Thank you all for this sanity check. Now to quote Clue, I'm gonna go home and sleep with my wife. My boyfriend, male 23, secretly destroyed my female 22 hobbies because he was jealous of me spending time with them instead of him. Plus updates. Original post. This is honestly the weirdest thing I've ever experienced and have no idea what to do. So I, female 21, have a lot of hobbies. I'm sort of what you might call a hobby collector, lol. But my top ones right now are running, training for a marathon, baking, reading, and doing something called junk journaling. Not sure if anyone is familiar. Specifically reading, I've been doing since I was a young teenager. This started about 6 months ago when I saw that several of my old books were dog-eared, which I don't do to my books. I asked my boyfriend if he had read them, which I would be totally fine with, but he insisted he hadn't touched them. Odd, but whatever. Then after that, I literally could never find my running shoes. I bought a rather expensive pair and keep them separate from my other shoes because I'm a nurse and my hospital shoes are nasty, LMAO. But the running shoes I could never find. They would always turn up days later though, somewhere I definitely hadn't put them. Again, odd but whatever. And then my journal got completely destroyed. Somehow it was left outside in our garage, where it is known to leak when it rains. It didn't necessarily get water damaged, but the moisture made all of my pages peel up and practically 28 pages ruined. The pages took me over an hour each, and I'm quite proud of them. 28 plus hours of my artwork ruined. This is so stupid, but I genuinely started to believe the house was haunted, LMAO. I did shed a few tears over my journal, and my boyfriend rolled his eyes at that, but helps me glue them all back down and salvage as much as possible. I had a fleeting thought that he put it out there, but it was honestly so weird, I was like, why would he? Then, it was back to my books. I have a huge bookshelf with about 200 plus books because I read daily. I started to notice one by one that they were freaking disappearing. Like straight up, gone. I searched every corner of the house and could not find them. I even texted all 3 of my sisters, my brother and my boyfriend's sister, asking if they had borrowed any and didn't tell me. They all said they hadn't. My boyfriend's sister borrows my books often, but she always asks and insisted she didn't have any. When this happened, I was like, WTF? And then it was my baking. I could never find my mixers or my baking sheets or anything whenever I wanted to bake. The final straw though was when I found my KitchenAid mixer broken. Literally just would not turn on. And if you don't know, those things are expensive. So I straight up asked him, did you do this? Like, why is all my stuff broken or lost recently? He finally admitted to purposely hiding or breaking my things because my hobbies annoy him. I'm not gonna lie, I exploded. I told him he was a weirdo for touching my stuff and that it was honestly so strange to do this as an adult. He proceeded to defend himself, saying that I was spending more time in my made-up hobbies than with him, and this was the only way to make me focus in our relationship again. Which, for context, isn't true at all. We still have a great relationship, or so I thought. We go on dates twice a week, get intimate regularly, we get along with each other's families and friends. Like, I'm so confused. We've been together for 2 whole years. I love him so much. And other than this odd behavior, he's so good to me. After that argument, I was genuinely so distraught that I left the house and went to my sister's house to live together. They also agreed it was the oddest thing in the world. The icing on the freaking cake when I got home this morning was that he threw out all of my things. Cut the soles out of my running shoes, cut the laces, threw out my Apple Watch, destroyed the baking things, cut the silicone molds, the box that all my missing books were in, and the freaking dumpster with all of my other journal supplies. The journal he helped me fix was turned to shreds. I genuinely started to sob. I know it sounds dumb and overdramatic, but I genuinely worked so hard in my journal that it made me cry. Literally hundreds of dollars, and some of my favorite books in the trash. Money spent on baking supplies, which I used to bake for my baby cousin's elementary school, ruined. I just don't understand what is wrong with him. He's never been like this before, ever. I'm genuinely so freaking confused what has gotten into him. What do I do? What has gotten into him? Is it something else he could be projecting? I'm genuinely so confused. Now for the top advice before reading the updates. He's a freaking psycho. Kick him out, change the locks and sue him. Police report and get a paper trail ASAP. It literally doesn't matter how much he hasn't been like this. Either he started watching some Andrew TT, or he was just waiting till he thought you wouldn't leave for this behavior. You have lost hundreds of dollars worth of belongings. You need to take a picture of everything. The shoes would be a great example. Your dog couldn't be blamed because it cut the soles out, and it's illogical to assume you would destroy your own very expensive shoes. I'm not a lawyer, but you might be able to sue for the property value and emotional damages. Keep all texts regarding this incident if you have them, and see if you can get him to confess to it over text as well. Anything like, "I'm so sorry I destroyed your stuff, please come back," would work. He's an abusive a-hole. Leave him. You deserve someone who encourages and celebrates your interests. And the thing is, up until like those 6 months ago, he literally always would. I even got him to read some of my favorite books. I'm just so confused what snapped for him. So weird, and it genuinely scares me. Yeah, that was just him faking. This abusive crap is the real him. Abusers will pretend to be normal, but normal people don't pretend to be abusers unless they actually are. Yeah, I just can't believe he was able to act normal for a year and a half. Actually, longer than a year and a half because we knew each other for a year prior to dating. I literally never expected something like this from him. It's so hard to leave someone because they hate your hobbies. It's so odd. This is not why you'd be leaving him. You'd be leaving him because he is a deeply cruel person who would rather systematically destroy your happiness than have any attention be directed away from himself. Hate is a feeling. What he did is intentional, prolonged, horrifyingly abusive action. It's just so hard to think that he was being abusive to me. I never in a million years would have thought he did this. He's never once made me feel unsafe. Now for the mini updates. I'm still not there. I'm with my sisters deciding what I need to do next. Thank you everyone for the comments and help. I really am grateful for it. Another update. A few people have messaged me to let me know that my post has been posted on TikTok and one of the Reddit story things. My boyfriend is active on TikTok, and if he sees it, this will be a million times worse. I don't know what to do about that either. I'm just digging myself in deeper holes now. And also, I know everyone is very concerned about my pup, but they also say do not go alone. I don't know which is worse, leaving her there or going alone to get her tonight. Now for the full update. Thank you for all your advice yesterday. A lot of people were very concerned for me, and that is honestly mind-blowing. If all you want is to know that I am okay, I am. If you want to know the full story, here. I decided last night that I really needed to go get my dog, as a lot of people said that he was going to hurt her or even end her when I wouldn't come back. I didn't tell him I was coming, just went with my sister and let myself in with my key. He was upstairs, but came down immediately. Apologizing, begging me to just talk, telling me I was overreacting, all that. I just ignored him and grabbed my puppy. I told him I was taking her and my few things and that I would be back later tomorrow, as in today, with my other sisters and brother to collect my things. I told him that if he touched any more of my stuff, I was going to take him to the small claims court like all of you suggested. And honestly, I was considering it now for everything he did prior. He was so stricken, and I could tell he started to get mad at that point. I ran around the house to collect my few really important things, passport, laptop, work badge. He followed me around the whole time, just begging me to give him another chance. I just ignored him. My sister took pictures of the things still destroyed. We put them all in our hallway closet for some odd freaking reason. I didn't tell him I was going to file a police report, which is why I think when my sister started to get snappy when we were leaving, calling him a few names, he shoved her out of the doorway she was standing in. She fell. She wasn't hurt or anything, but it really proved things for me. He was willing to shove my innocent sister over a few words, and he will definitely do worse to me. He probably would have done worse to me if I came alone. We just immediately left after that and took my dog and my stuff back to my sister's. She helped me contact police and we have a report started. All the things he destroyed of mine, the texts admitting to it, the texts threatening me, the texts saying he would have never hurt our dog, but if it wouldn't have gotten me there, he would have done it. That he will do anything to get me back. And a small scrape my sister had on her hand when she fell. They asked if she wanted to press charges for the shove, but she said no for now. The officer was really nice and he told me to write down everything that he broke and write down the prices. He said it might add up to a felony charge if that's the route I wanted to take with him. I'm not sure it is, but at least it's there. That was last night. This afternoon, my brother and our friend, another man, are going to take me back to the house to pack up most of what I can. I had my sister tell my ex-boyfriend over text that we suggest he be gone from the house for a few hours. He responded to my sister with just horrid things about me, calling me names that I never would have expected from him, telling her about all the intimate details of our relationship, and other personal stuffs my sister don't know about. He said he wishes he never met me. My brother is urging me to try and file a restraining order. And for those of you concerned that he was stalking me or tracking me, I had my brother check everything, and he said it all looks fine. So at least there is that. I'm not concerned he will try and hurt me or anything when I go back to the house. Like I said, I'm going to go with my brother and a friend, both ex-military. I'm going to stay with two of my sisters until I figure out my situation. My brother is insisting on staying with us, at least for a few days while everything settles. I thought I was overreacting, but I think my brother honestly might be. Lol. I'm mourning the loss of my 2-year relationship with a man who I thought was the love of my life, a man I lived with and trusted wholeheartedly. But I don't know what happened, but he just isn't that man anymore. I think in some ways he never was. My sister made me think back on the past 2 years and I can name at least a dozen things he did to subtly control me or try to. The most terrifying part is that, if I didn't have the weird urge to post here, I probably would have let him convince me to forgive him. That is the worst thing that's ever happened to me. I hope no one ever has to experience something similar. Although I now know this is far from rare. This man is insane. I'm happy her and the dog are okay, but she needs to get far away from this person. Plus, he cannot know where she's living. Yeah. Even the small stuff, like hiding her running shoes, come across as psychotic. But destroying all her things? Holy crap. I've been collecting gaming books, dice, and other paraphernalia for 30 plus years now. God, typing that made me feel old. Anyway, if someone threw all of that out, I'd be livid. It may just be stuff, but it's my stuff. All those things I collected through my life, there are memories attached to that. Obi's brother is not overreacting, and I'm scared for her that she thinks he is. In fact, she is underreacting, lol, which I guess is because things need to sink in a bit more for her. It is genuinely such a scary situation. She's probably still in that mindset of, he's never done anything like this before. He wouldn't actually hurt me. But it's so obvious that he 100% would, and probably will try to. Yeah, in the first post she said she dismissed the idea that he would do these things, because why would he do that? And as I hope it became clear to her with time, he did it to hurt her. Not because he didn't get enough of her time, not because he was going through something difficult, but just because he wanted to hurt her. To feel in control of her and watch her be upset and confused. I am glad she never went back alone, and hope she keeps that up. Witnesses, protectors, allies, all good and necessary in this type of situation. Last story. I, 22 female, mistakenly accused boyfriend, 22 male, of cheating on me. He says I want to break up. Have been in a relationship with my boyfriend for 2 years. Never had any real problems until now. He moved to a new job about 4 months ago and is being mentored into the job by a senior female employee. She calls him after work hours too, to make sure that work is on schedule and to inform him of various responsibilities of the next day. I have been okay with all this, until one day she called him around bedtime and asked him if he could pick her up in the morning because of some problems with her car. I found this unnecessary and told him to not do it. He said it was okay for one day and did pick her up in the morning. I argued with him in the evening and told him that I find her calling him outside of work to be uncomfortable. He rejected that and said she only says things about work. And as she mentors him, he cannot just ask her to not call anymore. This has been going on for some time, but the breaking point came yesterday. One of my friends called me yesterday noon and told me that she saw my boyfriend eating lunch in a restaurant with another woman. She described the woman, and I was sure that it was the mentor. In my mind, I was almost sure that it was nothing. But still, when he came home, I exploded and screamed at him and accused him of cheating on me with her. I shouted over him for a good 30 minutes. When I calmed down, he looked livid and showed me a photo on his phone. It was a selfie of him and several of his colleagues having lunch, and it was just that he and the mentor took a smaller single table by the side of the extended one. I apologized a lot, but he said that he doesn't feel comfortable that I am getting insecure over him working with a woman. Then today morning, he told me that he needed some space and went to his friend's house. He is not taking my calls anymore, and I want to go to his friend's house to talk to him. How can I convince him that I know that I went overboard with my reaction? Edit. Some of you have asked why the mentoring is continuing after 4 months. I can't say what his job is, but I know that the mentoring period for his job is 6 months. Now for the top advice. So you went from thinking it's nothing to screaming at him. Then he asks for some space, and you bombard him with calls and want to show up at his friend's house? He has every right to dump you, and I think most reasonable people would do the same. I suspect your relationship is toast, and that's on you. Yeah, couldn't believe that part either. Why would you explode and scream at someone when you're almost sure nothing has happened and the boyfriend hasn't done anything wrong? Opie deserves to be broken up with, and is not nearly apologetic enough for her actions. I can't help but feel that any apology would come with a but. If he asks you to give him some space, give him some space. He left this morning, so wait at least a day until you try to contact him again. He might sort his thoughts out and come back to you. What are you doing, Opie? Sounds like an abusive, controlling, and coercive person to me. You're right. She definitely could be abusive, controlling, and coercive towards her boyfriend. Her insecurity is something to share and be vulnerable with him about in a controlled setting. Exploding accusatorily over circumstances and stress rather than waiting until she could have a conversation means she's unprepared to be in a healthy relationship and needs to work on herself rather than try to repair this. It's at her boyfriend's discretion, but he should break up with her. I could never imagine being with someone who doesn't trust me sharing time and attention with other people regardless of gender. Mini update. Sorry for not replying to the comments. I was distraught, and the opinions are understandably against me. I understand from reading many of them think that I might have BPD, still to be diagnosed. I'm planning to go to therapy and counseling. I've sent him a message saying this, and that he can take as much time as he wants, and that I would completely understand if he wants to break up. As for people asking why I screamed at him when I didn't think there was a problem, I really don't know. At that moment, I couldn't control myself, and all the irritation I felt from her spending time with him must have come out. My boss flipped out after I quit, and now he is threatening consequences. Original post. So, I joined this small tech R&D firm about 3 years ago. The boss is a former math major who started a company in his mid-20s. Initially, he had some early successes, winning a handful of awards totaling around $13 million in the first couple of years. When I joined, there were 13 people, and the place had this weird cultish vibe. Everyone called him the leader. He was super into coaching everyone and was always giving guidance. Fine, whatever. I was skeptical, but seemed like a good opportunity. During my final interview, he even had a human psych professor, his mentor, on the line to assess me. Weird? Yes, but okay. As time went on, I realized the entire company was full of yes men who were enamored with this guy's wisdom. He was always reading business theory books, obsessed with writing, and basically thought academic skills mattered more than actual business skills. Every decision was based on something he read, not an intuition or experience. He wasn't a businessman. He was an academic who happened to start a business. Shortly after I joined, he made the lead engineer, who he had coached, into a proxy CEO while he took a backseat. Problem was, the lead engineer didn't want to lead, didn't know how to make decisions, and had to run everything by the boss anyway, who was basically AWOL. The boss was off trying to find investors, but couldn't close any deals because his negotiation skills were purely theoretical and not rooted in any real-world experience. Fast forward 2 years and we're not winning any awards. Then one day after a big demo, the boss lays off half the company. No warning, no heads up, because his advisor told him to just cut everyone loose. The next day, the boss took a 2-week vacation, leaving me, the lead engineer, and one senior programmer to do everything. Yep, seriously. We busted our butts and won a small award. But then the lead engineer quit. After 8 years of loyalty and burnout, when he told the boss he was leaving, the boss basically said, "Don't let the door hit you on the way out." A few months later, the senior programmer quit too. So now it's just me running the entire technical effort. There's one other person, a program manager, who deals with customers but mostly comes to me for help with anything resembling actual work. She's been with the company since day one and balances the boss's complete lack of people skills. Oh, and yeah, she's mentioned that she thinks he might be on the spectrum. For the last 6 months, I've been doing everything, seeking new business, working on current projects, trying to market and move our products. You name it, I'm doing it. Then a few weeks ago, my boss comes to me, all weepy, and says he can't assure the longevity of my job, so if I need stability, I should find something else. We talk a bit and I say I'm still working here hard, but nothing changes his attitude. He doesn't respect me or the two of us still here. He just keeps pushing and micromanaging. Yesterday, after a 2-hour working session, he tells me he wants to coach me. He says, "You have a great ownership skills, great technical skills, great leadership skills, but you need to have better directability. I need to be able to tell you and direct you in what to do." I'm sitting there nodding along, but in my head, I'm like, seriously? There's no one left. I'm carrying this company. You aren't doing the work. Do you even know how to do the work? This guy has never worked for anyone. All his decisions come from stuff he's read, not from actual experience. Who are you to coach me when I've got 10 years of real-world grind experience? And then he goes off talking about the future success of the firm and how he needs more control. Control of the two of us who haven't quit yet. Oh, and when the other engineers quit, the boss had an emergency meeting with me and a program manager to talk about the firm's future and vision. But it was all theoretical nonsense. He started yelling at us when we asked actual questions about concrete steps we could take. He just wanted to go on about our values rather than actually build a plan. And don't even get me started on his non-stop requests for reports. He critiques every word, analyzing them to death. I'm like, dude, we could have a 2-minute conversation and I'd answer all your questions. But nope, he needs written reports. Recently, he sent me a feedback document from one of our bids. And it's like, read this and explain it to me. Dude, it's not that complicated. Just read it. Then, after I explain, he asks for more clarification and proof that I'm right. I've been here almost 3 years, doing everything, and he still doesn't trust me to understand a simple document? At this point, I'm just waiting out the interviews I'm in the later stages of because I cannot deal with this anymore. Let's read the top comments before reading the update. Okay, what? The boss is a moron and at least somewhat verbally abusive with no real leadership skills or knowledge. And yet you've stayed there for 3 years running the entire technical side and letting him run roughshod all over you? Why are you just looking for a new job now? If OP leaves, boss likely has to completely shut the company and can salvage some cash out of it. As it stands, OP has been drawing a paycheck while boss digs a deeper and deeper debt hole. They aren't making money, which means boss is building more debt the whole time. It's the long burn. Boss won't take any responsibility, but he'll be equally forked. Yeah, this is what my family's all saying. If I quit, the company is screwed. I think he would get a contractor to finish whatever work we do have and then go back to consulting. OP should start his own business and become a direct competitor. Take all the useful employees. Take all the customers. I want to. Money's the problem. And product. I can't just market myself. And I don't have the resources, money, product, idea, etc. to start anything right now. The only question I have is, why you didn't leave sooner? I don't want to keep leaving jobs. I had to stay long enough for it to not be a red flag for future employers. Now for the update 2 months later. After grinding through endless micromanagement and carrying my entire department on my back, I finally accepted a new job offer. I sent my boss an email letting him know I'd be resigning and offered 2 options. I could finish my high-priority writing project, the one I kept emphasizing, and leave by mid-month, or I could stay until the end of the month to wrap up everything, including the technical project and all the admin/business tasks I'd been handling solo. My new job was starting on the 28th, so for the past week, I've been working both jobs. My new one from 9 to 5 and the old one from 5 p.m. until midnight, or later. I documented everything down to the smallest detail, so he'd have all he needed. I didn't feel I needed to spell this schedule out to him, since the company always operated on flexible hours. He replied saying he was disappointed but understood, so I thought we were good. But then he called and let me know just how disappointed he was. Apparently, I was supposed to seek his blessing before leaving. The irony? When he hired me, he didn't even want to give me 2 weeks to leave my last role. He expected me to start the Monday after sending the offer on a Thursday. From the day I submitted my resignation until my last day, my boss was mostly absent. I kept sending him detailed update emails, asking if he needed anything else and checking in to make sure he'd be set for the transition. But he was nowhere to be found. You'd think he'd be the most engaged at this point. This is his company, and I'm literally the last technical employee left, apart from the program manager, whom he actually instructed me not to inform of my departure until the day before I left. I practically had to chase him down to ensure he was getting everything he needed. For someone who's repeatedly insisted on control and micromanaged endlessly, he was oddly disengaged and unresponsive during the only time it really mattered. So, he scheduled a handoff meeting for Thursday at 2 p.m., but I already had meetings for my new job. I suggested 4 p.m., and he got upset, questioning why I was still working if I'd already quit. I clarified that I was splitting my time for a smooth transition, and he absolutely lost it. I explained it was either this arrangement or leaving him high and dry, but he was still furious. Finally, at 4 p.m., he showed up for the meeting, his first involvement in any part of the transition. He asked for a full walkthrough of everything. I had already put it all in writing, with flawless documentation, reports, and tutorials, but I ran through it anyway. For hours, no breaks. Every single question answered, everything demonstrated. When we wrapped up, he said, "We might still need some guidance on things." I started to say, for what it's worth, I never meant to, but he cut me off, saying he's seeking counsel on how to deal with his situation. He claimed nobody's ever done this to him before, then vaguely threatened to figure out what he needs to report before storming off. I'm beyond frustrated. Despite everything, I really try to leave on good terms. I busted my butt to get every last detail done, even working long hours after quitting to make sure everything was flawless for him. I kept things professional, communicated often, and documented every project and process. I was ready to put this behind me and try to reach out for a genuine conversation at the end, maybe even find a bit of closure. But instead, he had to make things difficult, ignoring all my efforts until the last second, then dragging me through a grueling 4-hour session. When I tried to wrap it up amicably, he shut me down with a vague threat and stormed off. He made a tough ending even worse, and it's a huge relief to finally be done with it. Quit immediately and let him drown. He is an insufferable prick. Hey, too late. Already handed it all off. Plus, didn't want to give him a bigger reason to accuse me of malicious intent. That is, theft, damages, etc. Unless you have a signed contract stipulating a longer notice period, there is absolutely nothing he can do to retaliate legally. As things stand, you are more than professional in giving him notice and ensuring a good handoff. Whatever counsel he is looking for will tell him the same thing. If you are in the US, most states are at will, meaning neither party needs to give any notice for the end of employment. And there is no legal consequences, outside of government jobs and some other small exceptions. Good on you for finally getting out of there, and not give them another thought and focus on your new job with hopefully a better environment. I'm concerned more that he'll try to rack up some sort of malicious activity complaint, stealing/mishandling IP, deleting stuff, etc. Obviously, my counter to that is that I handed everything off with 0 problems and went above and beyond to get it to him. But it would be such a headache. Or like, what if he finds out who I'm working for and reports me to them? No worries, his place is closing soon. Really hope he finds something to do or wins something. He has a big family, wouldn't want him to actually have financial hardship. Second update. The following morning, my ex-boss emailed me with the standard exit paperwork. In this, he included his version of the timeline of events since I resigned, an excerpt from some onboarding paperwork where I agreed not to disparage the company, work for a competing company, etc. He also claimed that I had committed to provide ongoing support as needed for the next 12 months. Finally, he wanted all the home office equipment I received when I started working returned. A mismatched chair, desk, headphones, etc. I sent back a very direct and pointed email with my version of events, detailing everything I had done for him, and firmly stated that I did not commit and will not provide ongoing support. I haven't heard back since. While coordinating dropping off my home office equipment with the program manager, she offered and coordinated with the boss for me to buy the equipment for $500, actual value close to $1,500. So, I got to keep my setup for a good price. I mailed a check, sent an email confirming the agreement, and I am done. Done. To those saying I was simping too hard or shouldn't have worked so much, A, I take pride in my work. If I'm leaving, I won't give anyone an option to say the company failed because of me or something I did. Or worse, for my ex-boss to go to my new employer and throw me under the bus. B, ethically, I have a responsibility to do the work I'm paid to do. I was still being paid, so I did the work. C, there was a lot of strange paperwork I had to sign when I joined the company. I did more than I might have needed to cover my bases. Last story. My brother is broke and wants me to buy him a house. My brother is a lot older than me, and for the last 20 years, he has lived in a fully owned 4-bedroom house and after his divorce, in several different huge rented houses. He's taken multiple foreign holidays per year, drives Audi/Mercedes level cars, owns his own business, and seemed to be doing really well. I can honestly say I didn't feel a shred of jealousy, envy, or resentment while I lived in small 2- and 3-bedroom houses in a poorer area. Maybe we went camping or took a very cheap holiday once a year. We saved up for 2 years to go to Greece that one time. I was happy with what I had, which I want to make clear was a perfectly normal standard of living for my family and my own children. I was pleased for him when he told me about his holiday plans. I'd often visit him in these houses and tell him how great they were, super proud of him, looking up to him, thinking it was great he was doing so well. Last week, he told me he's in massive personal and business debt and will be homeless in around a month's time. This happened at a very strange time for me. I landed an amazing job 6 years ago, and through a combination of luck, years of hard work, and intelligence, I was promoted to a high level. I'm now going to receive, for me, life-changing quantities of RSUs. You can probably figure out what I'm doing. I still live in a very small house, but my wife and I aspire to a place by the sea where we can walk the dog. I also want to set up for my kids for university and prepare them for their own lives in this current cost of living crisis. He asked that I use the money I'll be receiving to buy him a nice house. He suggested I keep ownership as an investment and that he would pay rent. Now we're at the off-my-chest part. There is no way I'm using this life-changing money to continue a lifestyle for someone else that was far in excess of what I had, and that would come at the cost of that kind of life for myself and my children. I told him I can pay rent on a flat for 3 months, so he isn't homeless. But I'm not buying him a house to live in. I'm not investing in property. And even if I were, I'd never rent to family. That's a mess waiting to happen. Would I evict him if he stopped paying rent? Maybe I feel guilty. Maybe I need strangers on the internet to validate me or tell me I'm wrong. I just needed to get this off my chest. I can't really talk to other family members about it because that would mean disclosing my RSUs and that everyone would know I have money now. As for me, I plan to keep my costs within my means. I know this job could go away at any point, so I need to save while I can. It's crazy that he even suggested you to buy him a house. You've made a very generous offer to help him find a flat and pay rent. I wish I had someone offer to help me find a place and pay rent for 3 months. More than generous. Do not pay for anything, including his rent. Do not enable his behavior. He knew this situation and still chose to increase his debt over time with no plan to do anything about it. And now the plan is for someone else to cover him? He needs to learn to live within his means. This is not your responsibility. Thanks, I needed to hear that. I made the offer, so I won't go back on it, but that's it. Make sure you stick to your 3-month limit. Write it in a contract if you need it. If you can, make sure this hypothetical flat is in an area he should be able to afford. No high-rises or penthouse. He's going to ask for 3 more months, then 3 more. My friend Lisa's father was always overspending on going out, drinking, generally being irresponsible. He borrowed money endlessly, until one day he had burned all his bridges. He asked Lisa to let him move in with her, as he was completely broke. She said it broke her heart, but she said no. She said she would let him come over to her place once a week to shower, and would bring him a bag of food once a week. She arranged to meet him on a certain bus bench at a certain time. She said it was the hardest thing she ever had to do, leaving him there. But within a few weeks, he had found an apartment complex where he could do janitor/landscaping work in return for sleeping in a storage room. He got another part-time job and started saving money. Within a year, he had gotten himself sorted out. Sometimes letting someone fail is the best thing for them. That's sobering. I don't see this coming to such a situation, but that's certainly some perspective.